This video is a little different than what I normally post. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Lynette. I've been married for going on 6 years. I have 8 kids. And my post today, or my vlog, is about being an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. And I was doing really good for quite a few months. And then just recently I ended up falling off again. I don't give alcoholism any excuses because I believe it is a choice. I used to make excuses all the time for why I drank, and it got really bad probably about maybe 6 years ago. I ended up drinking and eventually ended up in the hospital. And I guess the reason I'm making this video today is that I know there are mothers out there that are alcoholics and they feel ashamed to admit it. And I felt ashamed to admit it. I really did, because of my kids' school and how it would affect my kids. Like I said, I have 8 kids. And alcoholism isn't just about myself. This addiction it affects my whole family. I guess any addiction does. But it started getting bad. And that first time that I ended up in the hospital, I ended up, I guess, getting pancreatitis. And that is like the most horrible thing that you could go through. You can't eat, you can't drink, anything. And at that time, I guess I told myself that I was going to quit and that I would never do it again. And at that time, I strongly believed it. I believed myself. I was lying to myself. And after that time, I quit for a little bit, just for like a couple months. And then, because at that time, the doctor told me that I'd never be able to drink again. If not, I'd kill myself. And me being an alcoholic, I guess, and hard-headed, didn't believe him. So a couple months later, I started drinking again. And it wasn't so bad. Like almost every other time I drink, I can drink for one day and quit. And then I start in again. Or the next time, then it goes on. The first time I drank was whenever I gave myself pancreatitis, was for like maybe 7 days straight. And it's not like getting up and drinking, it's not like drinking, then going to bed, getting up, sobering up for a little bit, and then starting in again. That's not what I was doing. I was drinking at night. As soon as I'd wake up, or even during the middle of the night, I'd get up and take a drink. And at that time, I was drinking dark liquor. And like I said, I told myself I'd never do it again, but I was lying. A couple months later, it goes on, and I am drinking again. And it got to the point in my marriage where my husband told me that he was going to leave me if I didn't stop drinking. And I guess I told myself that, well, at that time I took it as like a real threat. And there was a couple times during our marriage that he left because of my drinking. And I guess I looked up on the internet instead of going to the hospital, because the way I feel about going to the hospital, it's embarrassing, especially because they know you're a mother, that you've been there before. And each time they tell you that you need treatment. I've been to treatment even long before this started. But like I said, a couple times me and my husband split up because of it. And I read on the internet that that you can taper off. I guess it worked one time for me. One time. But you have to be, I guess, really, I don't know, self-motivated or something to do that. Because each time after I started drinking after that, it never worked. I kept lying and saying, oh yeah, this is my last bottle, I'm gonna taper off. But back in May of last year, I ended up in the hospital again, and I had an infection, so they sent me to a different hospital. And at that time, they made it sound like I was gonna die. And at that point, it killed me. It emotionally killed me, because I was all alone. And my kids, I'd video chat with my kids, and they would tell me that how much they love me, and it was such a big regret. And it made me want to stop. And each time, the reason I kept drinking, going on and on and on, it was because when I'd wake up, the hangover is hell. And I know everybody gets a hangover, or they go through the headache, they go through the not being able to eat and everything, but I couldn't handle it. But last May was my breaking point there at that time. For my oldest son ended up telling me how much he loved me. And he's not very emotional. He doesn't tell me things like this, get emotional with me at all that much. And at this time, he just let his heart out. And it broke me. Well, in the end, it turned out that I ended up getting over the infection. I got out like a week later, and I ended up coming home. And at that time, I told myself I would never drink again. And kept thinking of the words my son said to me. Well, I ended up getting a job, and at that time I decided to put my whole all into my job. To my job and coming home to my kids, and because I put myself into the job, I had no time to drink. And during this whole time, each time that I ended up in the hospital, even though it was because of myself, my grandma, she'd end up calling me and telling me, or checking up on me and telling me that she'd want me to quit and how much she loved me. And I guess I never really listened. So this last time, I ended up drinking again. I lied to myself and said, oh, it's only going to be one time. And it's because of this whole COVID-19 that we ended up getting laid off of work for a little bit. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I have time to drink. I have time to sober up. And so I started drinking again, and plus I lost my grandma about a month ago. And, at that time, it made me proud because she was able to see me sober up there for a little bit, my recovery. And I have been to treatment, and it only works if you want it to work. But I lied to myself this time and told myself that it was only going to be one time, and that I wouldn't get all emotional while drinking because I hate crying. I hate being one of those sappy drunks, I guess. But at the same time, I've been holding in my pain. And because of the loss, I guess I got weak. I had a weak moment. And like I said, I don't make no excuses for drinking at all because it's a choice. But I ended up making the choice thinking that it was going to be one night. Started off one night. I woke up and I had the worst headache and everything, and I'm like, I can't do it. And at this point right now, my husband, he's here. He's here for me no matter what. But he's leaving this choice up to me. He's not trying to stop me because it doesn't work. Trying to stop somebody from drinking, trying to leave them or anything, that's not gonna help. Like I said, it's a personal choice you have to make. And I don't know if you have to hit rock bottom for it to happen. And at this point, I guess I'm not at rock bottom. Emotionally, I am. But like I said, I had a weak moment. I ended up drinking. And looking at the aftermath of how much I drank 6 or 7 half-a-Gs. Or half gallons, or however you want to say it. And like I said, it's not drinking at night, sobering up for a little bit, and then doing it again. It's constantly staying drunk. Well, I got to the point where whenever I would eat, during my drunken mess, I end up throwing it all back up. And I thought the only way that I could eat or that I would stay functional, and see, that was the other thing too, is I tried to be a functional alcoholic, like drinking, going to work. That's I can't do that at all. I know some people can, but I can't. It's either being drunk at home calling in, or it's sobering up completely. I can't do both. I've tried. Well, this last time, like I said, I drank 6 or 7 half a gallons of Bacardi Limon. This time it was different because I guess I decided to switch because of the whole pancreatitis thing. Well, I ended up getting really, really depressed, and that's the thing with alcohol. It's a depressant. And I guess I just wanted to stop drinking, and I knew I couldn't do it on my own. So I ended up taking a full bottle of my antidepressants. I'm supposed to be on antidepressants. And that's the other thing that helped me through, was work, being on my antidepressants, and my kids. And this time, like I said, because of the COVID-19, there's no school, so I didn't have to get up or anything. There's no work, so I didn't have to go get ready for that either. So I just took it as like, oh, I can stay drunk. But well, by the 13th day, I wanted to stop drinking. In my mind, I wanted to stop drinking. I knew I couldn't handle it anymore and kept throwing up. And there was just this part in me, I don't know, maybe something telling me to, but like I said, I ended up taking a full bottle of my antidepressants, and I ended up telling my mom and my husband what I had done. So I don't remember if it was me that called the ambulance or if it was one of them, but either way, I ended up going to the hospital. And whenever they took my blood and everything, they told me I should have been dead. My blood alcohol level was 0.412. And when I looked that up, it says that I should have gone into a coma or had seizures or something. And I guess at that point I didn't care. I wanted to be sober. I want to be sober, and that this is why I'm doing this vlog, is because I know I'm not the only one out there. For a long time I felt alone. And I just want to tell the other moms out there too that have a problem with alcohol that you are not alone, and that there is help. I guess this last time it actually took me, and see, that was the other thing, the hangovers keep getting longer and longer and harder and harder, and I have actually, it turns your brain to mush, basically, that you can't think. But like I said, I know I'm not the only one, and there's people to talk to. In my part right now, that it's doing this. I guess this is part of my healing. I don't know. But I just want to let others know that you are not alone.